That is perfect. And remove the cover. To add my butter. Oh, look at this. Buongiorno, I am Francesco and welcome to TortellinoTime. I absolutely adore Parmigiana, which is a typical Sicilian dish, but I also love Yorkshire puddings. So today I've got an idea where I'm going to be marrying a traditional Sicilian Parmigiana with some Yorkshire pudding. And I'm going to show you step by step my thinking process. I've never made this recipe before, so I'm very excited. I will be using a cast iron skillet for the Yorkshire pudding, and also I've got a baking tin, one of those with a little clip for the Parmigiana. The idea is that I will cook the Parmigiana first. Once it cools down, I can remove it from my tin, put it in here and add the batter for the pudding, put it back in the oven, and hopefully something amazing happens. But I did say that I was going to give you a step-by-step guide of my thinking process, so I'll show you what I've got in mind. So I need to establish how much batter I need to make for my Yorkshire pudding. So I'll place my baking tin in the middle here. I'll put a weight in the middle so it doesn't float. And I want to make sure that I've got as much batter as possible, as my plan is to have the Parmigiana to be more or less as tall as the tin, so that by the time the batter rises I will have a wonderful creation. So I'm going to be adding some water to ensure that I get to the top of the lip of my skillet. I can now remove my weight and my tin. And the amount of water that I've got in my skillet, if I very gently pour it back in here, is the quantity I need to make in terms of butter. And I'm just taking a look, and it's just over 1 pint, so approximately half a liter. So if you want to replicate the recipe, you can do something similar. Before I make the Parmigiana, I'm now making the batter for the Yorkshire pudding so that it can rest in the fridge. Here I've actually got a bowl where I've put 8 dessertspoons of plain flour, and I'm now breaking in 6 eggs. This is my 6th egg. And also I will be adding a little pinch of salt, followed by a generous amount of pepper. Yorkshire puddings are well embedded in the British culture. There are many ways on how you can make them. This is the recipe which I learned from my wife Julia, and also from my mother-in-law. Some people actually put suet in, but if you've got a different recipe to the one I'm making, I'd be interested to see what that is. And I'm using a large number of eggs because I want to make sure that my batter really grows and I get a spectacular Yorkshire pudding. But normally if I was to make Yorkshire pudding on a Sunday for a roast, I would not use as many eggs. But of course this is not a normal roast. It's more on the lines of the batter that you might make if you were to make a toad in the hole. And this is a tip which Julie's nanny told me, to add a little water. So I add a little water. And I'll mix it once again, followed by a little milk until I get to my half a liter mark, and I do not obviously want to make it too liquidy either. And I'll give it one final mix, and I'm on the half a liter mark, which is great, and actually consistency wise is also very good for what I need. And this is done. I'll put the lid on and I'll put it in the fridge while I get on with the Parmigiana. This is going to be a vegetarian dish, but also I want to make it as healthy as I can possibly make it. So I will not be frying anything, and I will be cooking everything in the oven. So here is my aubergine, and I'm going to start slicing it. And bearing in mind that I will be using a little tin, I'll be doing little slices. Anything between half a centimeter and a centimeter will be fine. And I'm now slicing the second aubergine, just like I did with the first one. I've got a baking tray here, and I'm arranging all of my sliced aubergines inside it. And even if they overlap a little, don't worry, that's fine. They're only going to go in the oven. If you've got an espresso mug, time to get it out. If not, you can use a normal glass. I'm going to be pouring a little olive oil inside it. And with the help of a brush, I'm now putting a little oil on one side of the aubergine. You don't have to do both sides. One side is enough to give some flavor. A little salt so that they can sweat some of the water, followed by some pepper. And I'll put them in the oven for 20 minutes, temperature 180 degrees. Doesn't matter if you've got a fan oven or a conventional oven. This stage doesn't make much difference. Little correction, by the way. I did say earlier that I was going to be cooking everything in the oven. Not 100% correct, because I need to make a little tomato sauce. So I will be adding a little olive oil in a saucepan. But the frying required for this is minimum, so still very, very healthy. Clove of garlic with the skin on, I'll crush it and add it in the middle. And I'll move to the hob where I'll be cooking the sauce. Temperature is fairly high and the garlic is beginning to sizzle, and I'll start by adding a little tomato puree first, about 1 tablespoon, and I'll mix it in. And the reason why I'm adding a tomato puree, by the way, is because I want the sauce to be a little bit thicker. And I'm now adding half a litre of passata. My sauce is beginning to boil. I'll turn the temperature down on the medium-low, I'll put the lid on, and I'll leave it now to simmer for a good 10 minutes, which will coincide with the aubergines being ready, hopefully. And the aubergines are done, and if you look at them, they are beautiful and brown, just as I want them. But I will put them aside to cool down slightly so that I can handle them when I put the Parmigiana together. In the meantime, I'll get the sauce. And there it is, my lovely sauce, just off the hob. And while it is still piping hot, I'll add a few leaves of basil, fresh basil, and I'll put the lid on and I'll leave it for a couple of minutes. The basil will release some beautiful flavor, and it will infuse the sauce with basil flavor. In the meantime, I'm going to get my baking tin ready, and I'm going to add a little olive oil at the bottom, but also on the sides. I'm doing this to ensure that the Parmigiana doesn't get stuck to either the bottom or the sides. And I'm ready to put my Parmigiana together now, but I'm going to be a little bit mean with the sauce, as I do not want too much sauce either. So I'll start with a little at the bottom, always the case when you're making Parmigiana anyway, followed by my first layer of sliced aubergines, and I'm using the smaller one in the first layer, as they will not be seen anyway. I will be using 3 different cheeses today, slightly diverging away from the standard recipe. This is cheddar, but also I will be using some mozzarella and some Parmesan cheese, Parmigiana. Followed by a little bit more sauce. And from the very beginning, I'm pressing it down with my spoon to ensure that my Parmigiana is nice and compact. I'm aiming for 3 layers of aubergines, so there should be plenty here. So that is my second layer. In this layer, I will put a generous amount of mozzarella, a little bit more sauce, and I'm pressing it down once again. And the fact that actually the sauce is piping hot is useful, as it is helping me in making sure that the cheese starts melting straight away. Before I put my last layer of sliced aubergines, I'm going to put a generous amount of Parmesan cheese here. And off I go one last time. That is perfect. And before I finish, I'll cover the entire surface of my aubergines with sauce. Actually, I thought I had made too much, but it's nearly all gone. But I think I'll stop like this. And for the very last layer, I'm going to put a combination of all cheeses. So I'll start with the cheddar, followed by my remaining mozzarella, and another generous sprinkle of my magic Parmesan cheese. And this is presentational more than anything else. I love having tomatoes on top of everything when I do things like this. So I'll put a few half sliced tomatoes on top. These are just normal plum tomatoes there. And as we are celebrating new flavors, I'll add a little oregano on the very top. Not a lot, as I do not want to spoil the taste of my Parmigiana, but just a little sprinkle. And I'll pop this back in the oven now for 20 minutes at 180 degrees. If you've got a conventional normal oven, up the temperature to 200, same amount of time. So I'll see you then. And there she is, still bubbling away. I left it in the oven for a further 5 minutes, so total cooking time 25 minutes. I'm planning ahead with my cooking today, so I'm going to leave this now for a few hours and I will pick it up again this evening ready for dinner. That is because I'll be doing more cooking in advance of Christmas. But if you were to do the recipe, leave it to rest for maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes, enough for it to set so that it can come out of the tin nice and easy. You will not know any difference because with the magic of editing, of course, will be immediate for you. But I'll see you later this evening, and by then it should be dark outside. See you later. Bye. And I am back, and as predicted, outside is dark. The moment I'm greasing my skillet, I will be placing this in the oven in a little while. The oven is reaching temperature of approximately 220 degrees. I will want it to be really hot before I put the butter on. By doing so, I'm adopting the same principles as to when I make Yorkshire pudding by greasing the little tins, so that hopefully it will come out without getting stuck to the bottom. And let's get back to my Parmigiana, which has been resting wonderfully for a few hours. I've got a little spatula here. Before I go anywhere, I'll just see what it's like on the edges. It feels good actually, no problem at all. It's nice and cold at the moment, so I should not have any problems in it coming out in one piece. I'm now going to unclip it and remove the cover. And here it is. I'll lift it, oops, so you can see, but I'm pouring oil all over my worktop. Never mind. It's looking good. This is actually good enough to eat as it is, of course. You can eat it when it's hot or when it's warm or now, and that would be delicious. I always prefer my Parmigiana when it's cold, but of course they're personal choices. And time to finish the Yorkshire pudding now. I will get this out of the way and I'll place a new bowl, a large one, as the other one is a little bit too small. And I will be Sicilianizing my Yorkshire pudding. So I'll start by adding some green olives, which I have halved. Here I've got some sun-dried tomatoes, which I purchased when I went to Sicily last time. I'll just get a few out and I'll chop them in little pieces and add them to the olives. Followed by some seeds. These are mixed seeds. There is pumpkin in there and sunflower, all sorts, but you don't have to use any, or you could just use pumpkins or sunflower, whatever you like, or nothing at all, of course. So here is my batter out of the fridge. I'll give it a good mix with a whisk first. I'll move this over here and I'll pour all of my mixture inside it. And I'll mix it all together. And here is my very, very hot skillet. And helped by a couple of spatulas, I'm moving my Parmigiana in the middle. Sorry, it's a bit noisy. And the final job before it goes in the oven is to add my butter. And if I've done my calculations correctly, it should be spot on. And it is. Look at that. Wonderful. And isn't it lovely when a plan comes together? And I'll move it back in the oven now for the final part. Temperature 200 degrees and about 20 minutes, the same as if you were making Tortellino or Yorkshire puddings. So I'll see you then, but I'll let you know at the end how long it took. And it is time to get it out. 22 minutes have passed, so I'm going to have a look now. Oh my God, that looks absolutely wonderful. Look at this. Look at the pumpkin seeds and the wonkiness of it. I think it's beautiful. I will leave it for a few minutes, definitely, otherwise it won't come off in one piece. Maybe 3-4 minutes, and then we can take another look. 5 minutes later, I'm back, and I'm gonna use a nice long spatula, and I'll try and go underneath to see if I can dislodge my Parmigiana more than anything else. I don't have a problem with the pudding, but it's the Parmigiana what could cause a problem. But it looks okay, actually. I'm quite pleased with it. Let's see if gravity is gonna help me tonight. Very, very gently I'm moving my skillet away. Voila, job done. And I particularly like the pumpkin seeds. I did say that earlier, and also the olives. Sun-dried tomatoes, you cannot see them very well, but we know they're there. It looks really nice. So only one thing left to do, to try it. Of course, it's easier said than done to try, but I'll just cut a little bit of the pudding there, and I'm gonna pinch a little bit of my Parmigiana. So effectively the pudding replaces the bread in the Parmigiana, and a little bit more original, and I'm sure your children would absolutely love this. I will like it as well, I'm sure. It's wonderful. The pudding is very light as well, and the Parmigiana is really, really tasteful, and has got a little bit of a kick because of the way it was cooked twice most probably, but it's wonderful. I'm very pleased. Give it a shot if you got a little time to spare during these holidays, and you might love it. I do. Thank you for watching, and arrivederci and grazie. Buon appetito.